Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam.
Hello students, my name is Ishan Shanalkar and today I will be talking about Elements of Markets Part 6, that is Revenue Analysis. Let us look at the objectives of this session. First we try and understand the importance of revenue in general. Then we grasp the important concepts of total, marginal and average revenue in detail, and then we look at a case study with a hypothetical example of a company. Let us start with the importance of revenue. Revenue is a fundamental aspect of a business's financial health and operational success. It plays several critical roles, such as it is an indicator of business performance. It measures the success of business. Revenue reflects the effectiveness of a company's sales strategy and market acceptance of its products or services. High revenue indicates strong sales performance and market demand. Tracking revenue growth over time helps assess the business's expansion and market penetration as well. Businesses can compare their revenue with industry standards and competitors to gauge their market position, thus benchmarking. The next point is funding operations. Operational expenses are a critical aspect. Revenue is a primary source of income to cover day-to-day operational costs, including salaries, rent, utilities and raw materials. Without sufficient revenue, a business may struggle to maintain its operations. Regular revenue inflows are essential in maintaining a healthy cash flow. Positive cash flow ensures that the business can meet its short-term liabilities and operational expenses without relying excessively on external funding. Third is profitability analysis. Profit is calculated by subtracting total expenses from the total revenue. Monitoring revenue is crucial for understanding the business's profitability. Revenue is a key component in determining the break-even point, where total revenue equals total cost. This analysis helps businesses understand how much they need to sell to cover their costs and start generating profit. Business or revenue for business is also critical in terms of investment and expansion. Revenue provides the funds necessary for reinvestment into the business, such as purchasing new equipment, expanding operations, or funding research and development. Consistent and growing revenue streams make a business more attractive to investors and lenders, as it demonstrates financial stability and growth potential. Further, revenue is important for strategic planning. Revenue projections are essential for creating accurate budgets. Businesses are using revenue to forecast and plan their spending and investment activities as well. Understanding revenue helps businesses allocate resources efficiently to different departments and projects, ensuring the high performance areas receive adequate funding. Further, revenue analysis is important for market position and comparative advantage. High revenue often indicates a strong market position and can help a business capture a larger market share. Businesses with higher revenue can invest more in marketing, innovation and customer service, giving them a competitive edge compared to rivals. Further, steady and sufficient revenue is crucial for long-term sustainability of a business. It ensures that the business can withstand economic downturns and market fluctuations. A strong revenue base allows businesses to build revenue and manage financial risks effectively. Next, revenue analysis is important for employee and stakeholder confidence. Consistent revenue growth can enhance job security for employees and contribute to a positive work environment. Reliable revenue figures build trust among stakeholders, including investors, suppliers, and customers, ensuring continued support and collaboration. So, if we conclude this analysis, then we can say revenue is more than just a financial metric. It is a vital indicator of business's overall health and potential for its future success. It supports daily operations, informs strategic decisions, fosters growth and stability. For these reasons, businesses must continuously monitor and strive to improve their revenue streams. Let us now look at the important concepts, starting with the concept of total revenue, or TR in short. TR, or total revenue, is a fundamental concept in economics that refers to the total amount of money a firm receives from selling its goods and services. Understanding the total revenue is crucial for business as it helps in evaluating their financial performance, making pricing decisions, and planning for future growth. Let's look at a detailed explanation of this concept. First, if we look at the definition, then total revenue is the total income generated by a firm from the sale of its goods or services. It is calculated by multiplying the price per unit, denoted by P, of the good or service by the total quantity sold, denoted by Q. So, as you can see, the formula is TR, that is total revenue, is equal to price P multiplied by Q, quantity. If we look at some examples, for example, if a firm is selling 100 units of a product and the price per unit is $10, then what would be the total revenue generated? So, as we have seen, it is total units sold, that is Q, multiplied by the total price per unit, that is 10. So, 10 multiplied by 100 gives us 1000. Moving on to the significance of total revenue. So, total revenue is a key indicator of a firm's sales performance and overall financial health. It helps in assessing the success of sales, strategies and marketing demand. Total revenue is essential for calculating profit, which is total revenue minus the total costs. Monitoring total revenue helps businesses understand their profitability. Firms use total revenue to make informed decisions regarding production levels, resource allocation and pricing strategies. A consistent or growing total revenue stream indicates financial stability and potential for business expansion. Now, let us understand the relationship between total revenue and price elasticity of demand. When demand is elastic, a decrease in price leads to a proportionately larger increase in quantity sold, which can increase total revenue. Whereas when demand is inelastic, that is less responsive, a decrease in price leads to a proportionately smaller increase in quantity sold, thus leading to a decrease in total revenue. Whereas if we look at unit elastic demand, that is when demand is unitary elastic, a change in price does not affect total revenue because the change is offsetted by the change in quantity demanded. So, there is no effective change as such. Total revenue remains constant when the price changes. If we try to imagine a graphical representation of this concept, then we can say that the total revenue curve can be plotted with quantity sold on the horizontal axis and total revenue curve on the vertical axis. Now, it will be different for different market structures, which we will see when we look at the sessions on market structures in detail. However, here we can get a rough idea. In perfectly competitive market, the total revenue curve is a straight line that slopes upwards, indicating a direct relationship between quantity sold and total revenue. Whereas in monopoly or imperfect competition, the total revenue curve typically has a parabolic shape. It initially increases, reaches a maximum point and then starts to decline, reflecting the impact of decreasing marginal revenue. Let us look at the impact of changes in price and quantity. So, first, increase in price. If the price increases and the quantity sold remains constant, the total revenue will naturally increase. However, if higher price leads to a significant drop in quantity sold, the total revenue may decrease. Now we look at increase in quantity. If the quantity sold increases and the total price remains constant, again total revenue will increase. However, if selling more units requires lowering of price, then it reduces the revenue. So, the effect of total revenue will actually depend on the price elasticity of demand, that is responsiveness of quantity demanded as a proportion to the change in price. Let us look at applications of total revenue analysis. So, first is pricing strategy. Businesses use total revenue analysis to determine optimal pricing strategies. By understanding how changes in price affect total revenue, firms can set prices to maximize their revenue. Total revenue is crucial for revenue management, which involves using various strategies to maximize revenue such as dynamic pricing and product bundling. Total revenue helps businesses analyze market demands and consumer behavior, thus providing insights into demand patterns and potential areas for growth. Concluding this analysis on total revenue, we can say it is a vital concept in economics and business. It reflects the total income generated from sales. It is essential for evaluating the financial performance, pricing decisions, and planning for future growth. Understanding this concept helps businesses optimize their operations, profitability, and ensure long-term sustainability. Let us move to the concept of marginal revenue. It is a concept in microeconomics and business that refers to the additional revenue generated from selling one more unit of good or service. Understanding marginal revenue is essential for firms in making optimal production and pricing decisions. Let us look at detailed understanding of this concept. So, if you look at the definition of marginal revenue, it can be defined as the increase in total revenue that results from the selling of one additional unit of product. It is calculated as the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity sold. So, you can imagine the formula looks as follows, that is MR is equal to the change in TR, that is change in total revenue divided by change in quantity. This can also be done by differentiation, where change in TR is actually the change in total revenue and change in Q is change in quantity sold. That small triangle represents change. Let us understand the significance of marginal revenue now. Marginal revenue helps firms determine the optimal level of production. Firms aim to produce up to a point where MR, that is marginal revenue, equals the marginal cost, as this maximizes profit. Understanding marginal revenue allows firms to set price strategically, thus ensuring they do not sell additional units at a loss. By analyzing marginal revenue, firms can identify a point where total revenue can be maximized. Now let us look at marginal revenue in different market structures. So, in a perfectly competitive market, marginal revenue equals the price of the product because firms are price takers, they do not dictate the price. The demand curve is perfectly elastic, meaning the price remains constant regardless of the quantity sold. Whereas in monopoly, marginal revenue is less than the price because the monopolist must lower the price to sell additional units. The demand curve is downward sloping, thus indicating that a monopolist faces trade-off between price and quantity sold. If we look at monopolistic competition and oligopoly, then in these market structures, marginal revenue also falls below the price due to similar reasons as monopoly, that is downward sloping demand curve, meaning firms have some pricing power and the demand curve, as I said, is downward sloping. If we try and imagine the graphical representation, then we can say that the marginal revenue curve can be plotted again with quantity sold on the horizontal axis and marginal revenue on the vertical axis. Now, in perfect competition, the marginal revenue curve will be a horizontal line reflecting a constant price, whereas in monopoly or imperfect competition, the marginal revenue curve slopes downwards and lies below the demand curve. which generally is the average revenue curve, as we will see in market structures when we study that. It starts at the same point as price on the vertical axis, but declines much faster compared to the demand curve or average revenue curve. Let us look at the relationship of total revenue and price elasticity. So, when the demand is elastic, marginal revenue is positive and total revenue increases as quantity sold also increases because of the nature of elastic demand. Contrary to this, in an inelastic demand, the marginal revenue is negative because the total revenue decreases as quantity sold increases. If we look at unitary elastic demand, then marginal revenue is 0 because the total revenue here is maximized and there is no change, as we saw. If we look at the applications of marginal revenue analysis, then firms use this concept to determine the profit maximizing level of output. The optimal output level is where MR equals to marginal cost. Understanding MR helps firms make informed pricing decisions. For example, if MR is greater than MC, increasing production can lead to higher profits. Analyzing marginal revenue assists firms in developing market strategies such as product differentiation and competitive pricing. If we look at example of marginal revenue analysis, then consider a firm that sells a product at different prices and quantities. Let's say in this table you have quantities listed in the first column, price listed in second, and their total revenue, that is price into quantity, listed in the third column. As we have seen, the marginal revenue is nothing but the change in total revenue given a change in one additional unit of sale. You need to subtract each point on the total revenue, and accordingly you can derive the marginal revenue. For example, when the total revenue has increased to 18 from 10, we say that the marginal revenue is 18 minus 10. 18 is the total revenue that is achieved after the sale of one additional unit, that is from 1 quantity to 2 quantity, right. In this case, marginal revenue is calculated as the total revenue at the current point, that is sale of 2 units, minus the total revenue at the previous point, sale of 1 unit, that is 8. Accordingly, you can calculate the rest. So, from this table, as we have seen, marginal revenue is calculated by change in total revenue for each additional unit sold. For example, when the quantity increases from 1 to 2, total revenue increases from 10 to 18, so marginal revenue is 8. If we conclude this concept, then we can say that marginal revenue is a critical concept for understanding how additional sales affect a firm's total revenue. It guides firms in making optimal production and pricing decisions, ensuring they maximize profits. By analyzing MR, businesses can strategically adjust their output and pricing to respond to market conditions and achieve financial objectives. Now we move to the concept of average revenue. So, average revenue is a fundamental concept in microeconomics that refers to a firm earning revenue per unit of output sold. Understanding this concept is essential as it helps in making pricing decision and production decisions as well. Let us look at it in detail. So, if we look at the definition, the revenue earned per unit of output sold is called average revenue. It is calculated by dividing the total revenue by the quantity of units sold. So, here as you can see, AR, that is average revenue, is equal to TR, total revenue, by the total quantity, right. So, here Q is quantity of units sold. Let us look at the significance of average revenue. So, AR helps firms understand how much revenue they earn on average from each unit sold, which is crucial for setting prices. It is used to analyze the market demand and consumer behavior as well. It reflects how change in price affects revenue per unit. By knowing AR, firms can forecast future revenue based on expected sales volume. AR is used in financial planning and analysis to determine the profitability of different products or services. If we try and understand the average revenue in different market structures, then in perfect competition, AR is equal to price of the product, because again the firm is a price taker. The demand curve facing the firm is perfectly elastic, meaning AR curve remains constant regardless of the quantity sold. Whereas in monopoly or imperfect competition, AR is typically equal to the price at which good is sold. So AR and demand curve are the same. The demand curve is downward sloping, indicating AR decreases as the quantity sold increases. If we imagine the graphical representation, then the average revenue curve can be plotted again on the horizontal axis, whereas the average revenue can be plotted on the vertical axis. In perfect competition, it will be a straight horizontal line reflecting constant price, whereas in imperfect competition, it will be downward sloping, reflecting inverse relationship between price and quantity sold. So if we look at the relationship between total revenue and marginal revenue, then total revenue is the sum of all revenues earned from selling different quantities of output, whereas marginal revenue is additional revenue earned from selling one more unit of output. In perfect competition, AR and MR are equal, as we have seen from the analysis. In monopoly and imperfect competition, MR is less than AR, because lowering the price to sell additional unit reduces the revenue earned from previously sold units. If we look at examples of average revenue analysis, then let's consider a firm that sells a product at different prices and quantities. So if you look at the table, you can see quantity, price, total revenue and average revenue in respective order. So here from this table we can see average revenue is calculated by dividing the total revenue by the quantity sold. For example, when the quantity increases from 1 to 2, total revenue increases from 10 to 18, and hence the average revenue at the second point is 18 divided by 2, that is 9. Let us look at the applications of average revenue. Understanding this concept helps firms to make informed price decisions, and this can improve the product in overall sense. AR provides insights into the effectiveness of sales strategy. If average revenue is increasing, it suggests that customers are willing to pay more, indicating successful sales tactics. Firms can use average revenue to manage their product portfolio by identifying which products generate highest revenue per unit. If we look at the importance of average revenue, then it is critical for revenue management, helping firms maximize revenue by understanding the relationship between price and sales volume. AR is used in cost benefit analysis to determine the financial viability of producing and selling additional units of a product. AR serves as a performance measure, indicating how well a firm is generating revenue from its products or services. So if we conclude, then we can say average revenue again is a vital concept that helps firms understand how much revenue they earn per unit of output sold. It plays a crucial role in pricing strategy, market analysis, revenue forecasting and financial planning. By analyzing average revenue, businesses can make informed decisions about pricing and sales strategies, ultimately contributing to overall profitability and market success. Let us look at a case study where we understand the importance of total, marginal and average revenue for, let's say, XYZ Electronics. So if we understand the background of this case, this company is a mid-sized company manufacturing electronic gadgets such as smartphones and tablets, which aims to optimize its pricing strategy to maximize profits. By understanding and analyzing total revenue, marginal revenue and average revenue, the company can make informed decisions regarding pricing, production and market strategy. Let us understand the scenario. So XYZ Electronics recently launched a new smartphone model. To determine the best pricing strategy, the production level, the company monitored sales and revenue data over a period of time. The data indicated varying revenue outcomes depending on the quantity of smartphones sold and the price points at which they were sold. Let us look at the analysis of this. First is total revenue analysis. XYZ Electronics observed that they sold more units of their new smartphone, the total revenue increased accordingly. However, they also noticed that the rate of increase in total revenue began to slow down after a certain point. This is because to sell more units, they had to lower the price per unit, which affected the overall revenue growth. The analysis of total revenue helped company to understand the overall financial performance from their sales and identify a point where revenue growth started to diminish. Moving on to marginal revenue, the company calculated the additional revenue earned from selling each extra unit of the smartphone. Initially, the MR was high, indicating that selling more units significantly increased total revenue. However, as they continued to lower the price or increase sales volume, the MR started to decline. This decline in MR highlighted the diminishing returns on revenue from each additional unit sold. Recognizing the point at which MR equaled the marginal cost of production allowed XYZ Electronics to identify the optimal level of output that would maximize their profits. If we look at the average revenue, then by average revenue analysis, which represents the revenue earned per unit, XYZ Electronics could determine the average price at which each smartphone was sold. This analysis showed how changes in price influenced consumer demand and sales volume. When the price was set too high, AR was high, but sales volume was very low. Conversely, when prices were lowered, AR decreased, but sales volume increased. Understanding AR helps the company to set a price giving balanced revenue per unit, and the total sales volume also effectively balanced. So, strategic decisions based on the analysis of these three concepts would yield optimal pricing and output. Using this analysis, particularly MR analysis, the company identified the quantity of smartphones to produce where MR equaled marginal cost. This strategy ensured that the company maximized its profits by not producing units that would add more cost than the revenue. By setting prices that reflected this balance, they could maintain profitability even as they adjusted production levels. Further revenue forecasting. The insights from total revenue analysis allowed XYZ Electronics to forecast future revenue based on expected sales volumes at different price points. Accurate revenue forecasting enabled better budgeting and financial planning, ensuring the company could allocate resources effectively and prepare for future financial needs. Pricing strategy. The AR analysis also provided a clear understanding of the relationship between price, sales volume and revenue per unit. XYZ Electronics could use this information to set competitive prices that maximized revenue while attracting customers. Adjusting prices based on average revenue trends allowed the company to respond dynamically to market conditions and consumer behavior. Further, look at market demand analysis. So, by studying the changes in average revenue, XYZ Electronics gained valuable insights into elasticity of demand for their smartphones. This understanding helped them tailor their marketing and pricing strategies to different market segments. For example, they identify price sensitive segments where small price reductions could lead to significant increase in sales volume given elastic demand. Thus, if we conclude this entire case, we can say XYZ Electronics successfully leveraged the concepts of total, marginal and average revenue to make strategic business decisions. Through careful analysis of these metrics, the company optimized its pricing strategy and accurately forecasted revenue, identified the profit maximizing level of output and gained a deeper understanding of market demand. This approach enabled XYZ Electronics to maximize profitability and maintain a competitive edge in the electronics market. I hope you understood the important concepts of revenue and enjoyed the session, which is very important for any student who is doing business studies or business administration. Thank you so much.